So what does it mean to be on your Grizzly? It means hard work, dedication, and it means progress beyond your Grizzly. Hard work, dedication, and progress.
I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. And if you're busy making moves, say it with me. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. And if you're busy making moves, say it with me.
Coming to you from the City of Angels, this is the Grizzly Podcast with Irvin Scott and Melissa Santos.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Grizzly Podcast. I am your host, Irvin Scott.
And I'm your host, Melissa Santos. What's up, what's up?
And today we are joined by a special guest. She is a professional wrestler / stuntwoman / model, and she's also the host of the Green with Envy podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for Chelsea Green.
Wow, thank you. Thank you. That was a great intro. Oh my God, model. Who am I?
Slash, yes.
Gotta throw all those titles in there, man, you know?
Oh, I loved it. Like, pump my tires a little bit. I like it.
We're here for you. What's up, Chelsea? Long time no see, and here. And I love the room that you're in right now. This picture behind you is, I need to know where you got that because I need that.
I got this custom made for Matt and I. I don't know if you can see, but it's got a Canadian flag tail. And yeah, so it's like a little custom painting from a Disney artist.
Yeah, I love Disney. Irvin loves Disney. He was just at Disneyland just recently too.
Yeah, they just opened it and they got you wearing a mask all day. It's supposed to be at like 25% capacity.
You know, like they say it's at 25% capacity for a lot of these places. And then they block off half the rides or half the seats. And then it takes so long to get on and you're waiting longer actually anyway. But it's really weird because in Canada, we're so shut down. So I haven't been able to go home in a year and a half. And my family right now is just kind of stuck there.
How does that feel right now? I mean, like now we're just kind of transitioning into this, but what is that like for you being during COVID and not being able to see your family?
It's tough, man, because like I'm so close with my family and I try to go home a couple times a year. And this is the first time ever living somewhere else and not being able to even have that option to go home, you know? So this is the longest I've ever gone without seeing my family. I'm just so thankful. Thank the Lord for FaceTime.
Yes.
Like, that's all I can say. You know what I mean? Because gosh, if this happened like 10 years ago and we were like just coming out with Skype, like that would be rough.
I find it really interesting that you during COVID were doing photo shoots through FaceTime. Can you tell me what that's like and how you were able to reroute those efforts? Because I know you love being in a bathing suit. We already know. Anytime I want to see what bathing suits are cute right now, I'm like, hold on. What is that like? You know, because you are a model as well. So what is that like doing photo shoots through FaceTime?
Okay, it's so bizarre. And when I was first approached about it by Fitness Girls, which is a little, you know, fitness magazine and online magazine, I was like, there's no way that this is going to look good. Like, I can barely get a good picture of myself on selfie mode with my camera, like the newest camera. So I'm like, how the hell is a photographer going to get a good picture on FaceTime? And I was shocked at the amazing photos that can come out of FaceTime photo shoots. Essentially, all it is the photographer FaceTimes me and I set my phone up on a tripod or lean it up somewhere and we just go. She finds good lighting and she tells me kind of like, she guides me through it just like a normal photo shoot, which is the craziest thing. And I'm so glad I've been able to do it. But it is kind of strange and surreal that that's like, you know, what we're resorting to right now. But I've got some great shots out of it that I've just been so shocked by.
But I'm like, wait, is it really FaceTime? Like, I wasn't sure if that was just like the name.
The name.
Of like the series, like the FaceTime series. I'm like, no, she's like actually getting a photo shoot through a phone. Through FaceTime.
And that's kind of why you notice there's not like a crazy amount of detail. And we try to keep
grainy.
Exactly. It's a little bit grainy. We try to keep the photos like super against a plain backdrop usually. And like, it's super easy. It's nothing crazy. But I mean, yeah, the world has kept spinning as we've gone through COVID. And that's just one way that people are kind of trying to stay afloat.
But it totally gives it that cool vibe though. Like
it's different, right? And it's once in a lifetime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you can say like, looking back, like, 20 years from now, yeah, I totally did that photo shoot like while we were locked up.
Bizarre, but I love it.
So let me ask you this. So as far as like a FaceTime photo shoot goes, what happens if like you lose connection? Like, does the whole shoot go to shit or what? Like, what happens?
Well, okay. So as we're on FaceTime, she's screenshotting all the like poses I'm doing. So honestly, we lose connection all the time because my house is terrible for connection. We lose connection all the time. She just calls back. We start all over again. And it's no big deal. It's all the photos are saved onto her, phone or whatever she's doing it off of at home. But it's crazy. It's so crazy that that's what we're resorting to.
That's insane. But you know what, Chelsea, I do want to say really quick, we want to thank you for being a part of the Grizzly Podcast. The Grizzly Podcast, it's obviously hosted by myself and Melissa Santos, but the thing that we do here, the podcast is basically a podcast that represents everybody that's constantly on their hustle. That's where the term Grizzly comes in. Obviously, you're somebody who embodies that. And, you've done so much. You've accomplished so much at such a young age, from wrestling to modeling to your podcast, everything. You've done it all. Stuntwoman work. I kind of want to know a little bit more about how your journey started. I know you're in Canada. So did the inspiration come from the greats out in Canada, like Bret Hart, Stu Hart, and the rest of the family? How did wrestling come about? Tell us a little bit about your journey there. So
surprisingly enough, I was not a crazy diehard wrestling fan. I was definitely a drama queen always. I loved everything dramatic, and I love dancing and musical theater and all that stuff. I'm not a good singer, but I love all that kind of stuff, just performing in general. And I really realized at the end of high school and going into college that I also had a passion for fitness. When I turned on the TV and saw Raw, and I'm not totally unaware of wrestling. I watched it in like 5th and 6th grade, and I went to some shows and things like that. But I never, ever thought about myself in the wrestler's shoes, ever. I just watched it as entertainment. And while I was watching it in college, doing some kinesiology homework, it kind of hit me like, wow, I feel like they do everything that I love to do: performing, acting, talking, and being physical. And I love that stuff. And I started Googling schools nearby, and it just turned out that 10 minutes down the road from where I lived at the time was Lance Storm's school, which is like the craziest, very weird, very, very strange that happened. But I feel like it was meant to be. And when I met Lance, that was it. I knew, like, I saw the wrestling ring, I met Lance. I was like, no, this is definitely what I want to do. And then as I kind of continued through training and to learn what wrestling really meant to me, I just fell deeper in love with it. And I fell in love with the character side of things and the promo side of things and, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's been a really crazy journey. It's been like 7 years now of wrestling.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. Really quick shout out to Lance Storm for, doing what he did to get you prepared. On top of that, you worked the independent circuit. Eventually that led you to Impact Wrestling. What was it like being a part of Impact Wrestling?
Well, so at the time, I think my head was in a place. I had just got kicked off of Tough Enough. I had only ever wanted to go to WWE because once I stepped in the ring, that's really all I knew. And because I was so uneducated about the wrestling world, the independent world, and anything outside of WWE, I really didn't know that was an option. And they reached out to me. I met Madison Rayne at a signing after I was kicked off of Tough Enough. And she's like, oh, have you ever, thought about coming to TNA? And I'm like, Google, like, oh, what is this? Right? Like trying to figure out like what, and that's like what I've done my whole career is like, I pretend I know what I'm talking about. And then I go quickly to the bathroom and I Google.
Okay, so, same over here.
I do it for everything, Melissa. I have done it for finishing. Yeah. I've done it for finishing moves, everything. Like, oh yeah.
Take it till you make it. It's all good.
Absolutely.
It is. Okay.
Absolutely. I'm still doing that. So, I didn't really think about Impact as an option until Madison said that. And I Googled and I'm like, wait, like I love all these people too. Like I totally can relate to like Angelina, like the OGs, like Angelina and Velvet and like the sex appeal, you know what I mean? And then seeing Gail and the fact that you know, there's all these girls that can go, but they're also still sexy, and they're not really like put in as much of a box as you are maybe at WWE. And I was like, oh, dang, like I love this. So I ended up getting a tryout, and they actually didn't hire me off that tryout. They hired me, that was January of either 2015 or 2016, I think 2015. They ended up hiring me closer to the end of the year that year, after I had gone to Japan and kind of made my way around the indies again. They gave me a second tryout match, which was supposed to be a tryout match for another female, and I ended up shining, and they liked me, so they hired me instead of the other girl. So that was crazy, but I mean, that's the thing. It was meant to be, and I'm so thankful for Impact, because I was so naive. I thought like, I'm going to get to WWE and I deserve to be there. And like, really, in hindsight, I did not deserve anything. I did not deserve to be on TV. I had not worked my way around the indies to be put on that platform or that pedestal. So for them to give me that stage and to trust me, I had never even wrestled in front of a camera when I was on live television for the first time for Impact. I didn't tell them that, but they trusted me, and I think it worked out.
It absolutely did work out.
Yeah, right place, right time.
I feel like everything's timing, and I think you mentioned like you felt like you didn't deserve it, and I think you absolutely did. I feel like the universe conspires for the things that you deserve and are meant for you.
I do agree with that. And I just think that they gave me something. They just like put a lot of trust in someone that, you know, really could have flopped. And I'm so thankful for that.
You know, when I started Lucha Underground, I felt like the same way, because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. Like, I had done a little bit of wrestling with WOW, and then we're like, oh, you know, then I get a phone call, like, we need a ring announcer who can like take a bump, who can like speak Spanish, which I barely spoke Spanish there. Like, we did like one season anyway. And then they're like, here's a microphone. And like 2 weeks later, they're like, hey, go do that. There's the hard cam. I'm all, I don't know. Like on the inside, I'm like, and I'm all, what the fuck? So like, sorry, people who don't like the F word, but yeah, that's so funny. Cover your kids' ears. But yeah, I know that feeling. But I think when you kind of look back, oh yeah, no, that was meant to happen.
As you were just explaining that, I feel like we've totally had that conversation. It totally just sparked something in me. But I mean, I do agree. I do feel like the wrestling world anyway is very sink or swim, or maybe just Hollywood in general. Yeah. And us being thrown into these situations just prepared us for everything else along the road that we were going to be thrown into anyway.
Absolutely. You just kind of have to embrace the unexpected moment, right? And just go, okay. And just kind of like be in it and go and just have confidence in like the fact that you don't fully know what you're doing, but still be confident. And I think that's what you did. You're like, yeah, I can do this. That confidence that you said that told you like, I'm going to go to WWE, like that confidence, you know, yeah, you had it the whole time, and you just brought it to, you know, to Impact TNA, and you made that work for you, even though you didn't know, and you knew, you're like, oh, well, yeah, I don't know this fully. It's still that confidence. I feel like that confidence in the ring, out of the ring, and, you know, with you, it has worked. And I feel like that's what it is. That's what it takes. It's just be confident, go know who you are, and know that you're evolving, right? And that's what you did. And you evolved. I mean, at TNA, like Impact, that you did so much. So let's talk about that. Like, how did all that evolve? Like, how did you become the Chelsea Green there, like that person there? I
mean, I really think at the beginning I was like doggy paddling, trying to stay afloat, just trying to figure out who Chelsea was. You know, I was thrown into the role of the typical mean girl. And when you get thrown into that role and you really don't think too much about it, you become very surface level. And that's kind of what I was. I was surface level, typical mean girl. Nobody really cares to see that person. Like, they get beat up, everybody's happy, good, they move on. Nothing memorable. And the big storyline was that, you know, I was getting married to Braxton. And I knew that was kind of like my time to shine. I was going to get more lines than I had ever got. And it was a main event, and it was about me. And, you know, even though it was about so many other moving parts, this was my main event segment, and I had to make sure I nailed it. So funny enough, during that segment, I actually did have real bottles of champagne, and I was truly drinking all the champagne. So when I finished my wedding segment, I was drunk.
Have champagne in there. Don't lie, Irvin.
Yeah, right?
Like, you go cheers water. Okay.
It's H2O, I promise.
I was fully drunk. And that is how the hot mess evolved. Myself and Dutch Mantel coming up with a promo for me to do while I was legitimately drunk.
Like, yeah. Oh, I didn't know this.
You will see how much champagne I drink. I think I go through a bottle and a half.
Wow.
It started off so hot. And that's the thing. Like, it was so good from there on out because like we laid this foundation that was so ridiculous and absurd and had so many different layers to it that then when I was able to turn into the hot mess, we really didn't have an idea that we were going to do that. It was just week by week. It kept happening and evolving and funny things kept happening to the hot mess that we were like, we need to shoot this.
Yes.
And Chelsea, and I know when you first started over at Impact, you actually came in using your real name. You were Chelsea Green first, and then eventually you transitioned to the Van Ness character. You stuck with that name until you got into the WWE, and that's how you actually went by Chelsea Green again. But what did you think about that name itself? Was that a name that you chose, or was that a name that was given to you by Impact staff?
I didn't choose that name. I gave a couple of options. The idea for the name is that it had to be something bitchy and rich sounding. And so we came up with a bunch of different names, but when it was time to go out there, a lot of the names were vetoed because of like trademarks and stuff. Like my last name couldn't be Vanderbilt because there were too many Vanderbilt things, stuff like that, the real rich names that you think of, we weren't able to. So I actually didn't know my last name until I walked out. And it said on the backdrop, I looked back and it said Van Ness. But if you notice, the very first match that I come out as Laurel Van Ness, Van Ness is not 2 words. They messed it up and it's 1 word. And then the next time I come out, it's Laurel Van Ness.
So funny. You're like, oh, there I am.
Dang.
Awesome.
No, 100%. I looked back. I'm like, okay, I guess my name's Laurel Van Ness. Well, there
like
it is.
Wrestling.
Fun
that
fact.
There embodies almost all of wrestling. You're like, oh, it's happening. Like, I feel like
Yes.
all of it. You're just like, oh, okay, let's go.
You
like,
don't know it's happening till it's happening.
Happening, right? And so, but I think that's good too, because then you're in the moment, it's real, it's organic. I feel like fans can relate with that more. The fans that matter. There's some, you guys watching this, some of y'all try to mess with us too much. But yeah, the ones that I feel like are really amazing and just always, they love that. They watch it, they embrace it. They're the ones that are out there supporting no matter what it is that you're doing, whether you're modeling in front of like FaceTime camera or you're out there just trying to figure out what your name is. Like they love that. And
I love those like diehards, the ones that are so supportive no matter what and that have your back no matter what. Because it at this day and age with Twitter and cancel culture, it's really hard to come by.
Yeah. And it's really, and it makes you like a little scared to even like have a conversation. I try not to go on Twitter. I take siestas, dude. I will literally take the Twitter app off my phone.
Yeah.
I would just like, okay, I'm not today. Like, or
so
tomorrow.
do I. I don't shut down my Twitter, but I delete the app off my phone.
Like
yes, because it's just become a habit to click it. And it's so toxic. And I've just been caught so many times trying to be canceled that I just mentally, I can't do it. You know what I mean? I know the type of person I am. And the people that aren't on Twitter that are my family and friends, like they know who I am. So that's what matters. And I have to remind myself that a lot. My parents have to remind me that too. Like Twitter is not real life. You need to get off your phone, delete that app and just like go for a walk.
Yes. And I feel like on Twitter, they're not even the real fan. Like, I feel like I get definitely different type of, I mean, it's not even love. It's like a love-hate thing that happens.
It's a different vibe over there.
It's a different vibe. It's kind of toxic. People are like all the time and they're looking for something to like attack you for. You're like, okay, it just doesn't matter what it is. But and I feel like Instagram's a little different. I don't know. Twitter, I feel like they just hide easier.
I agree. I think they can hide easier, and I think it's easier to attack people's words. It's becoming less appropriate to attack a picture or the way someone looks, and more appropriate to attack someone's opinions.
Yes,
exactly.
But I'm glad you have to kind of like you have great parents. So your parents tell you get off. That's true. You got to get off, take a walk. It's not real life. And then I feel like they get a kick out of actually getting you to respond back.
They definitely do. And that's another thing that I just have to remind myself, like, come on, Chelsea, they just want a reaction.
I want to go back to Impact Wrestling because I know you had mentioned, your character and everything you did there, wrestling barefoot, wearing a wedding dress. Tell us a little bit more about that. What was that like?
Honestly, it was the evolution it took so long that it almost was natural by the time I was barefoot and fully in a dress and wrestling. It was natural because I had been backstage cutting all these promos barefoot in a dress for so long before I then wrestled. And then on top of that, the evolution back into gear was slow and steady. I, first put the boots on and then I never took the face off and all that stuff. So, I mean, it totally felt natural, but when I look back, it's like, it makes me cringe to see anybody wrestle barefoot because I have such weak ankles and like, oh God, like I can't believe I never got injured. I mean, it's crazy. Thank God that, I had no injuries from it, but I loved it at the time. It was so low maintenance.
You obviously had a memorable career at Impact Wrestling. So after Impact Wrestling, you went over to Lucha Underground,
and your
season 4.
There was phenomenal. Like, I just love that. Like,
so I would, again, another thing that was handed to me that I felt like at the time, oh my God, I don't deserve this. Like,
you said that to me backstage.
Yeah.
Okay. So now this is why you're thinking that I mentioned that, but it's because you were backstage and just like, I'm like, shut up. Like, you're going to be fine. Like,
isn't it crazy? Like, I had been the Impact Women's Champion, but like, I had never, this was so much different. This is like a different kind of creativity and a different kind of wrestling. And I was looking at, Pentagon and like John Morrison and just thinking, oh my God, I am so not in this caliber, but they put so much trust and faith in me right away. And it really gave me all the confidence in the world to come up with a new entrance on the spot and to, wear this new wrestling gear that I've never worn before. I mean, at one point, I think it was during my match with Pentagon, I was wearing I'm about a size 7.5. I was wearing size 9.5 shoes. And I had to wear like 3 pairs of socks and like try to fit them on. So
remember this.
So crazy, but man, that was like one of the best matches. I think it'll probably be one of the best matches ever for me, just because that crowd's amazing. Mel, the crowd is like, there's no crowd like Lucha Underground.
There was never a crowd, I don't think. And you, even at WWE, you feel like there wasn't a crowd like that. Yeah, it was
not like that. That is just so unique to California, especially. Like, California is really like that, with the crowds are really awesome. Yeah, and man, like, just being in that match versus Pentagon and trying to keep up to a match of his caliber was really, really cool.
It was so good. I remember thinking, wow, and you looked so good. And you guys, it was just such a phenomenal match. Like,
it's such an amazing match to look back on, and like, there's a few matches in my career that if I got pregnant now or if I quit now, that I would be really proud to show my kids. And that's one of them.
Yeah, it was so good. It was just everything. I'll never forget that match. It was like one of my favorite ones of that season.
Oh my gosh, it gives me chills thinking about it.
No, it was so good. As soon as you go out there, like, you're just like, okay, fuck this. You were this other person. And I feel like that transformation is just really phenomenal. And I'm really happy that I can be back there and just like watch you guys transform into like these amazing characters. Like,
it's so cool, isn't it? You see people backstage and they're just like completely different than what
they really like, than their characters, and
totally.
That's cool. But that's like where the talent comes from, right? Like that's
why we do what we do.
And by the way, what was it like working with Pentagon? I know you actually enjoyed that match with him. Was he a very stiff worker?
He's a man, so it's always going to be a little stiffer having a man work a woman. Like, and that's one thing. I'm not necessarily a huge intergender fan because I know my strengths, and I'm not like super rough and tough, and I'm tall and gangly and skinny, and I don't feel like I can necessarily always step up to the guys, but he really tried to meet me halfway, and he made me look good. Just as much as I was trying to make myself look good, he did that for me as well. And I mean, I will say he threw me into the chairs without telling me, and that was probably like the scariest moment of my life, being midair.
What?
Yeah, being midair, thrown into the chairs, and not like being like, here I go, like, rest in peace. Yeah.
Was that planned or was that it just happened out of nowhere?
No, it just happened out of nowhere. But like that's the way they work at Lucha Underground. Like they're like all daredevils. And if I was gonna main event Lucha Underground, that's what I had to do. I had to step up to the plate. Like I can't lower their standards. I had to get on up there.
That's awesome. But it looks like you had a great time at Lucha Underground. And from what Melissa Santos tells me as well, like she enjoyed her time at Lucha Underground. So that's the spot to be at, or it was a spot to be at. And I'm hoping we get a comeback from Lucha Underground. I heard that that's in the works. Who knows?
It was its own thing. It was like a movie. It was like a TV show, but it was wrestling and there was all these characters and it was so gritty and just different that if they try to do it again and it doesn't have that same like level of enthusiasm, like, and talent, right?
And talent.
It's just not going to work. Anything can happen though, right? So
yeah, anything can happen. So following Lucha Underground, you finally made it over to WWE, you made your way over to NXT. Right out the gate, you had an injury, unfortunately. Tell me about what was going through your mind when that injury first occurred or when it first happened. So talk to us a little bit about that.
So it was my debut, my first time wrestling in front of the Full Sail live crowd. And I was the dark match before TV. So hoping to get on TV and to prove myself. And I felt like that was my really only opportunity that I had to kind of prove myself. And close to the end of the match, right before kind of the comeback, my arm snapped in half and went the opposite way. And I had to finish the match. I was not gonna, I wish that like now I'm like, oh, I probably shouldn't have, I should have probably just stopped. But like at the time, your adrenaline kicks in and you just kind of go. And I finished the match with my arm dangling and it was disgusting. But I do think I proved a point. And the point is that, like I came from the indies and I worked my ass off to get here and nothing is going to stop me. I'll break my arm in a match and I'm going to continue going because that's what I am choosing to do because I'm an indie wrestler. And I think I mean, it's kind of annoying. I think when people go to WWE and they like separate the indie wrestlers from like the homegrown talent, but like, that was kind of my moment to be like, that's right. I'm from the indies and this is what we do on the indies. Okay. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But yeah, but it was a real bummer, but they really took care of me. I had my surgery. I came back. And when I came back, I basically got called up pretty quick after that. I did get called up to Raw. And then I eventually was switched over to I got called up to Raw. And then I was brought back to do a couple of NXT matches and then got called up again. But this time it was kind of undetermined. So I was hopping from Raw to SmackDown to decide where I was going to debut. And that was after the WrestleMania NXT ladder match and stuff like that. So that was during quarantine in 2020.
Okay. And were there also plans to have you win that match? It was a fatal 4-way match, right? It was between you, Natty, Tamina,
Liv.
Were you scheduled to win that match originally?
Yeah, I was supposed to. But I mean, yeah, what are you going to do when you break your arm again for a second debut?
It was the same arm, right?
It was the same arm. It was just unfortunately right above the plate. So I had a plate in my arm that I should have had taken out and I didn't know that. I had to get surgery to put a bigger plate in. And then just a week ago, I got the plate removed.
So how do they not know that? Like, hello, I mean, like someone, you shouldn't know that. You're not a doctor.
Right. And that's kind of like the bummer is that it's like, damn, like, where did I miss this information? Like, I was so thankful that my surgeon caught it this time. And my surgeon was like, oh, you need to get this plate out. You can't be wrestling with a plate in your arm. That's very dangerous. And I actually I was supposed to have surgery this summer to get the plate taken out, but I actually was rushed in for emergency surgery last week because my bones also react to plates. Yeah. And how we didn't catch that before, I also don't know.
Yeah, wow.
So suffering the first injury and then going through the second injury, what's going through your mind at this point after, experiencing 2 injuries?
Yeah, the second one, I was a little bit more frustrated. The first one I was sad. The second one I was just angry. I was really angry. I was frustrated. I was kind of angry at the world because I was like, I scratch and clawed, and then I get out there and I break my arm. And it's just so frustrating when you see the light at the end of the tunnel and then it's kind of ripped away from you. But with that being said, it really just has given me time to, again, focus on like the things I love. And, I worked on getting my fitness back up, and you don't need both arms to do that. Like I was spending more time at home. I was, focused on my relationship with Matt and my home life and my body and things like that. And so there's always blessings in disguise. It's just, they're not the ones that maybe you see at the very beginning.
That eventually led to your release. From what I had read, you had signed a 3-year deal. Is that correct?
I had signed a 3-year deal. Yes, I had. Yeah.
You get released, and what was the explanation given? Was it budget cuts?
I will say this, I did not see it coming. I was totally shocked. Honestly, I thought that I was at any moment going to re-debut again, because I have been cleared since February. So I did think I was going to re-debut again and all was going to be good. So I was very shocked, but no, they don't really give you explanations, because what's the point? At the end of the day, what's the point? Unless you do something wrong, unless there was like really something like, hey, the door is shut because of this, I don't think that they tell you. And, they can always in those 90 days call you back and give you a job. So they also don't want to say too much as well, I'm sure.
Whatever happens in the future, you're a tremendous talent, and I'm sure you'll find somewhere else to, continue to hone your craft. But let's talk about your relationship with Matt. You guys obviously have been together for a long time. How did you guys meet?
Set up on a date by Cody and Brandy Rhodes. That's how we met.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Okay.
We liked each other after date 1. We didn't go on date 2 for about a month or so after date 1, just because of wrestling and stuff like that. But no, we definitely liked each other, and we were like dating after the second date.
Were you guys both really into Disney, or did that just happen?
So I really love Disney, but not in like the way that Matt does. Like Matt is like, when he loves something, he's like obsessed. And I'm just not that type of, like, my personality is just not like that. I love Disney. I love going to Disneyland, but I'm also Canadian. Like, I didn't go to Disneyland all the time. I went a couple times in my life, loved it, and that's that. But I did not know it was like, yeah, it was like this. So I think that everyone thinks I've like got secondhand like Disney obsession, because everyone kind of just assumes, and I'm always going with him, which I don't mind. There could be worse places to be dragged to.
Yeah, it's really nice. You guys are always like out at Disney. I'm like, yeah, they're really at Disneyland like all the time.
All the time. We haven't gone in a while, surprisingly, but like even throughout COVID, when we could go, we tried. We really tried.
Yeah, I feel like you guys were there like the first day it opened up again.
I think we were.
I think it was like the first.
I know he also collects action figures and all kinds of other like toys and things of that nature. What's it like being with somebody that just collects a gang of shit?
I feel like we're all dating grown babies. Like, you know what I mean?
They're man babies.
They're totally just large children. And I'm actually okay with that. Like, a lot of people ask me that all the time. Hey, is there times that it annoys me? Absolutely. Is there times that I'm like, I can't believe that you spent, like, you could have bought me half of my car for that figure. Like, stuff like that drives me crazy. But at the end of the day, I'm like, look, he's not going out and doing illegal things, or like, it's toys, it's harmless. But we do need a bigger house because we have outgrown our house simply due to Matt's obsession with toys.
Oh my gosh, same. I buy him toys.
Oh, see, okay. So I would love to, but I just can't. Like, Matt is the person who has everything.
Does he think he's easy to shop for, or?
He'll be like, yeah, no, I'm easy. And I'm like, then what would I get you? If I were to get you something and you didn't know about it, what would I get you? And he's like, I guess I am hard. Like, he gets everything that he wants, and he always has.
Yeah.
But now that we're a couple, what we do is it's easier to buy stuff for us, to spend money on like a fire pit or outdoor furniture or a fireplace and all those things, like grown things.
Yeah. That's funny.
I started thinking about like things that happen to me. Like, see, I'm a big sneakerhead. I collect a lot of sneakers. And for me, my thing is like, if my girlfriend is shopping for me or whatever, I want to make sure that the shoebox is like intact.
Oh my God, that's Matt too.
Like OCD, man.
That
it's
is
crazy.
Matt too.
So he does that with his toys. Is it like he wants to make sure that the case is right, it's not damaged.
And it has to be the proper whatever it like, or if it's a card, it has to be the proper number card and things like that. And so I just can't. That's the thing. When you have an obsession, you know what you like, you get what you like, and we just can't keep up with that kind of stuff. Like I'm very much like a don't get me a present kind of girl, but I think I've really turned into that type of girl because I really don't want to get him anything because I can't.
Wedding hasn't happened yet, but it will. We'll be there to support you, me and Melissa. We'll be cheering you on. Let's talk about your podcast. You've got the Green with Envy podcast. You went through some changes, right? Originally, there was another name. It was 50 Shades of Green. It's now known as Green with Envy. Tell us about the name change and tell us what the podcast is about.
So the podcast is just a general mashup of everything that's me. So it's like current events and pop culture, a little bit of wrestling, a little bit of my life and my embarrassing stories and why I am the way I am and things like that. I dive into kind of my past and the cool jobs that I've had and all sorts of stuff that I just want people to get to know me on a more personal level outside of wrestling. So I'm trying to keep the wrestling talk to a minimum, but of course I'm well aware that my fan base is a wrestling fan base. So I do want to touch on that. But yes, this week I hit a little legal speed bump when I was served a cease and desist. Who served me the cease and desist? Which you guys, it's so juicy because I'm telling you, everyone's like, it's WWE, it's a cannabis company, it's this, it's that. And it's just like, it's so funny what it is. So hopefully people will tune in just to
the most random thing that nobody even cares about. And they just made themselves really important because
it's really silly. And you'll laugh when you hear.
Oh my God, I can't wait.
But yes, so the new name is Green with Envy. So if you want to find me on social media, it's at Green WNV Pod.
So is that why the name changed?
That's why the name changed. I wasn't going to fight the cease and desist. It just was not worth it to me. So I changed the name.
Chelsea, we wish you the best of luck with that podcast. And where can they find the podcast? For anybody that's interested.
You can find it on all digital streaming platforms. But my suggestion to you is to go on Apple and rate, review, and subscribe and all that jazz on Apple Podcasts.
Go and check all that stuff out. I noticed that you had posted something about July 14th. I know you probably can't tell me.
That is when my 90 days is up.
That's your actual freedom day.
Exactly. So I don't have anything going on July 14th, but you never know. I wanted to put it out there. Like July 14th, I'm free.
Yes. Okay. I love it. Okay. Are you excited for what's to come now that you're like that kind of freedom? You're like, all right. Yes. And you're out. So now
I'm so excited and I just can't wait for people to see me again in the ring. It's been so long and I just feel like now's the time. You know what I mean? I want to get back in the ring and I want to do all the things that I never got to do before I signed with WWE.
Awesome. Do you feel like you might be going back to maybe Impact or?
I feel like the door is definitely not closed at Impact, but there's opportunities, elsewhere that I also want to explore. So I really don't see myself signing anywhere or attaching my name anywhere. Right now, I want to make sure that I kind of like bounce from place to place.
On top of everything else that you're doing, whether it's the podcast, whether it's FaceTime photo shoots, and in the future, hopefully wrestling again. What are some current projects that you've got going on outside of the stuff we mentioned earlier?
I can't say too much, but I am working on, hopefully working in some capacity with Playboy, and I'm really trying to push to get on Barstool Sports. So who knows?
I heard you have some upcoming events in LA. Is that true? You're having an event on July 25th over at Jimmy's World Order. Is that correct?
That is correct. That's going to be one of my first meet and greets and signings. So, anyone who's around the LA area, come visit me. It's going to be really fun to meet everybody.
A little birdie told me you'd be there. And I heard I may be hosting the event. So just FYI.
Your birdie's name, I heard.
Yeah, okay.
We'll be there.
Make sure you guys pull up. That's July 25th. She'll be there from 12 to 2 p.m. Jimmy's World Order in East LA. Make sure you guys check that out. Let everybody know where they can find you, social media, plug all that.
On Twitter at I'm Chelsea Green and on Instagram at Chelsea A Green. And then don't forget to subscribe to Green with Envy podcast.
Yes. We got some juicy stuff coming up. So
yeah, cease and desist, baby.
I want to know about that.
if you were to offer any advice to anybody pursuing their dreams right now?
I'll stick with the theme because I could go on forever. But the theme would be fake it till you make it, just walk into the room and own it and be confident. And you know what? Eventually the fake confidence turns into real confidence, and the real confidence gets you a job. And then guess what? You're the shit.
Yeah.
So
awesome. I love it. Yes, baby. That is the embodiment of what the Grizzly Podcast is. Staying on your Grizzly, no matter what. You fall down, you get up, you fall down, you get up, you break your freaking arm twice, you friggin' put it back together, you finish the match, and you just go. That is life. Just doesn't matter what it is, like you just keep going. So thank you so much, Chelsea, for being part of the Grizzly Podcast and embodying that in all the ways and every facet.
Thank you guys for having me. Let me know if you guys want to do this again. I had so much fun.
Chelsea, we appreciate you being on the show. Guys, make sure you guys check out the Green with Envy podcast with Chelsea Green. It's available on all major podcast platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everything else. So make sure you guys check that out and continue to follow Chelsea because she's got more surprises coming your way. And Chelsea, thank you again. This is the Grizzly Podcast. We want to wish you the best of luck with everything.
Yes, thank you guys.
Chelsea,
bye.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. Take care.
Yo, turn it up. Hard work, dedication, and progress. Stay on your Grizzly.
Yeah.
Thanks for checking out another Grizzly Podcast episode. We'll see you next time.